Hello everyone, my name is Jesaya.
And I'm William.
And we have a special guest here. Her name is Emmy. She's one of the execs at the Vault publication.
We don't know her position name, but she's an exec.
I don't have a position name, I'm just kind of here.
We'd like to welcome you guys all back to the Voice of the Vault podcast, McMaster University's meme and media podcast. Today we're going to be doing just a general thing about the video game industry and how shit it's become. I'll let you guys start off because I don't know where to start with this conversation.
Okay, so first thing, we're talking about how video games are becoming less about video games and they're just using as a vehicle for stuff like advertising. Like, for example, let's say hypothetically we make a video game and it's a AAA title, it's going to get really popular, but like a lot of companies can use video games to advertise or like kind of like sell out. Like video game can sell out to these companies where they have the character somehow be like addicted to Pepsi or something, and then it'll just kind of like for kids it makes the money.
Oh, that's an interesting question actually. Is there actual product placement in games now?
Oh, yeah.
I know they are in like movies.
Because I know in movies it's so fucking obvious. Like remember a time I was watching like Man of Steel, and he like crashed through a 7-Eleven billboard, and I was like, wow, that was you're not even trying to conceal it.
No, in all the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, there's always a scene where he's just really blatantly posing in front of an American flag. Is because they happened around 9/11 and people needed to be united and more.
Spider-Man's gonna save the day, guys.
It was a real thing. People were feeling
Spider-Man
scared and they needed reassurance.
Spider-Man 5, Spider-Man versus Muammar Gaddafi. We
God.
got him, ladies and gentlemen.
Did we though?
We got him. Okay, but no, like legit, is there product placement in video games?
Yeah, all the time.
You can actually see products. Like what? Can you give me an example?
Well,
Can we give you an example?
can we give you an example?
I
I know what happens.
You know what happens, but you can't give me an example.
We know, and therefore that is enough.
Yes.
I just gave you a solid example of Man of Steel in movies. That's a solid example. There's Budweiser. There was like a fucking truck that like exploded.
Oh yeah, no,
full
well,
of Budweiser.
I do know they make a lot of spoofs. For example, GTA 4, they had something called the Piss Wasser.
Mm-hmm.
It's a picture of like this girl pissing into a cup.
That's different. That's a spoof. They're making fun of the company, right?
Yeah.
It's different from like actual product placement. Like I can understand maybe advertisement and toxic practices like that, but are we seeing product placement?
What were some of the, there's a lot of different things to do with this topic that I think are worrisome for gamers about the gaming industry. So it's not just advertisement. Generally, games are not being used to fulfill the purpose of it they might have once been used for. So escapism and immersion and all these things that we like from games. So there's other ways that games are kind of being perverted for other corporate purposes, maybe.
Microtransactions.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
Microtransactions is probably the biggest one.
Yeah, let's fucking get into that. Like microtransactions, they can be done right, but they can also be done horrendously wrong.
I think for a long time we saw examples where they were done right, but then the potential was realized, and now it's just in full overdrive. And there are games that are really just vehicles used to exploit these microtransactions, or at least that's what I feel.
It makes me so sad. I love it when you have microtransactions that are designed for like aesthetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have like skins like in League of Legends or, for example, in PUBG or Fortnite, right? But
sometimes they're useful. So like an example here is Pokemon. Like if you live somewhere where you can't access, or you don't have time to go to Pokestops all the time and pick up random Pokeballs and items, and you want to buy them,
Then why you
so
play
that
Pokemon
you can
Go?
still. I don't play it. I don't play it anymore. But there's a lot of people who do.
who
And
plays
I think,
Pokemon Go, dude?
hey, I'm just trying to serve the market.
Shout out to people who play Pokemon Go.
I have
you have
know
no
that
life.
my mom and dad love playing Pokemon Go.
You all suck. Stop playing Pokemon Go.
Okay, no. We love you. It's fine. You can continue playing Pokemon Go. But basically, there's a market out there, and I think it's good that they don't have to necessarily dedicate their time to walking around every 10 minutes or however the fuck often it refreshes to collect these Pokeballs. You can just buy a bunch of them.
So let's just play a Pokédex simulator.
You know what? It's fine. It's a social experience. You can go take your gyms and stuff and not.
Don't want to walk outside. No time. Social experience.
No. I mean, you don't have to waste your time walking around to get your Pokeballs and then also go to a gym. Just go straight to the gym. That's fine. The point is,
just for context, these gyms aren't legit gyms. They're like fake gyms where you stand outside
I
of the
think
park.
everyone who would be listening to us knows what a fucking Pokemon Go gym is. But anyways, so it can be used for a pretty decent purpose and not straight up exploited. But there's obviously cases where that's not true.
Times have changed. EA, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh god.
Fucking EA.
Here's the real monster.
Star Wars Battlefront.
The first one.
Classic.
The second one as well.
Okay, the second one was not nearly as bad because they had actual content in that one. The first one was like
Arguable.
3 maps. There was like one gameplay that was actually good. One game that was actually good. And the microtransactions were all over the fucking place. It was not a finished game for $70 at release.
I bought it.
It was
Yeah, I bought it.
you both are fucking idiots.
I mean, I bought it for my brother. I didn't play it, so you know what I bought. It's fine.
Back to video games. So microtransactions. Battlefront was pretty bad. The most recent and saltiest was Battlefront 2. The reason why was because, well, there was an in-game method of like obtaining stuff, but it was stupid. They made it so each match you'd get an obscenely low amount, and each item would cost obscenely high. And they're just like, you know what? We're gonna fix this, guys. Don't worry. So they increased the amount of items, like points you get per match, 3 times. But then they increased the cost of each item 4 times.
Classic EA, ladies and gentlemen.
Right? So we're back to we're worse than we began, right? And then they have these loot boxes where it's just like you can use it for your pride and accomplishment, right? You know, pride and accomplishment. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that line of thought, but they have these like loot boxes where you pay for a chance of succeeding and getting a nice item, which you can use to pwn noobs, which means that progression was tied to either obscene amount of gameplay, or a lot of money.
So
Is it?
reasons were
Someone
citing-
calculated that if you played a regular amount each day, like it would
And
take.
what would be a regular?
No,
amount? So, like,
no,
an
it was calculated that
hour,
like I don't
2
remember.
a day?
Like they calculated it that like if you played 24/7
Jeez.
to unlock everything, it would take you approximately 5,000 hours.
Wow,
God damn.
true. That's not even a regular amount.
Yee.
How long were we expecting people to play this game? Like,
5,000 hours.
It died after 2 months, brother.
the game, man, like EA has a bad habit of selling unfinished games for like
You get
$80.
to particularly
We're gonna
bad
touch
rap
on
for
that.
everything they do.
We're gonna touch on that afterwards, but let's talk about microtransactions.
The gaming
There are
experience, but-
systems which implement microtransactions properly. Like there's some freemium like phone games that actually do it pretty well.
Love
right?
alive.
So like games where it's just like, you know what, here's a bar, you can only play this much per day, and then you can let it recharge, and or you get pay some money to get gems to like renew it and play more. Well, that's the only cost, and the test is patience. If you can be patient, you'll play as much as you want.
But there you have to have that in-game currency readily available through playing. So that's the problem with
And
EA,
it is.
where it wasn't readily available. Like no matter how many hours you put in, you still wouldn't have a good chance,
Yeah.
a fair chance of being able to earn this. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit
So
different.
like we have a resident
it does
expert on
work.
Love Live. So yeah, she can tell you about how
That's
it works
not true.
generally.
Yeah, that's
works.
basically how it works. So you have to pay. You can pay to buy the in-game currency and use to roll for cards used to play the game. They give you powers, and if you don't want to pay for them, you could just play the game until you earn them. I mean, there's different ways. They have competitions, and you can earn them by doing well in songs. So they're readily available within the game if you don't want to pay. I
Yeah.
personally have never spent money on it. I know people who do if you're impatient, but it doesn't really detract from playing the game for people to go and spend all their money, like for other players. It doesn't make it unfair at all. There's
And-
still a good chance that you end up with these cards. You can still have fun. Your scores may not be as high for the competitions, but overall, they dole out the prizes pretty evenly.
Yeah.
It doesn't really end up mattering. So in this case, it's a good system.
And then another case that I've experienced, like the new game that hit the Japanese market, took it by a storm, and also came to the West. It was really good. Honkai Third Impact.
Oh yeah, this was
It-
huge.
I haven't
It's
heard of it.
actually
oh, it's huge. It's so cute.
it's
I love
actually
it.
a lot of fun,
It
and
is,
it's actually
pretty
good.
fun.
And the
Yeah.
microtransactions they did there works. It's like, okay, so you can get in-game currency, which you can use to roll these boxes. You get a
Yeah, it's
free
like the same
box
as
roll
Love Live.
each day,
Oh
right?
No, we don't get free.
like every couple hours, right? And then to unlock characters, you have to amass a certain amount of like cards, which is like, let's say 30 cards of this one character will unlock that character. And then you get, like, everything is mostly done with in-game currency, or you could use like gems, like, or the equivalent of gems, to basically roll more.
So there's
right?
a lot of these phone games that basically have this in-game currency, these gem currencies where you can use them to roll items, roll characters, roll all these different things that will help you along in the gameplay.
Yeah.
But it's not unfair if you purchase more gems to get them, because it's still kind of like a random chance.
Yeah.
So you're buying more chances, yes, but regular players still have those chances, and it works out pretty well because you can earn the currency in game.
Yeah, you can earn the real money currencies.
There are games where this does not work. I mean, a lot of mobile games from Asia, this is kind of the system that they use, but there are games where the players are kind of exploited and expected to play money. One game that we don't have here, but that is huge in Japan, is Grand Blue Fantasy. And
yeah, I know a lot.
Oh my god!
I know a lot.
In order to get anyone in any of the good cards,
I don't mean a lot
you
in a
have
good
to
way.
spend so much money.
I know.
So you guys generally are okay with pay to win as long as
I mean,
it's not pay to win.
You're not winning. It's like you pay
There
to
is
add
no
to your
winning.
own collection. Like the thing with these games a lot of the time is that it'll help you along. These are all things that'll help you, but because you're not directly playing against another person, like you are for competitions, sure. But because it's not just one person that can win and you're not going head to head with anyone, I don't think it's as big of an issue. Like usually you're just doing it for your own personal achievement.
right.
Like in Love Live, if I want my score to be higher, yes, I should probably start paying so that I can roll more boxes and get better cards. But I don't really care because my score is still good enough to earn me the prizes that I want from the competitions, and I still have fun enough just playing the game.
And the cool thing about Love Live is that it's not predatory on young kids that play these games when it comes to gambling, because kids don't have the accuracy and like fine motor abilities to actually play Love Live properly.
You would just get so frustrated and not want to play it.
It's a real fun game.
It is fun, and Honkai Impact is kind of similar. Like there's no, you can't really pay.
And it has a pretty solid combo system, so playing the game is rewarding in itself.
It's the same. Yeah, all these games, they're still fun to play, even if you're at that base level and you don't have any of the cool items. And then it just becomes.
And like they always give you a chance and events to actually win these.
And and every so often they do throw you one. Like if I want to roll an ultra rare girl in one of the boxes, I could roll probably 3 times and get one. I mean, it's 1 in 10 technically, but
and
they come frequently enough that it'll keep me playing the game, and it won't lose. I won't lose interest in it.
And there's events where it's really easy to win these gems. So if you amass enough, you can roll 10 times.
Oh, and it makes you want to get better at the game because you just get them by virtue of being good at the game. If you perfect a song, you get a gem. Like that type of thing.
And then as you amass them, let's say you get 600 gems, and it costs like 100 gems per like roll. And then there's like, with 600 you can roll 7 times, and you're guaranteed an ultra rare.
You essentially are guaranteed. And then like in
so it's
the case
incentive
of Love
to play.
Live specifically, every time you roll, you get a coupon. So every time you roll, I think it's 11 girls, and you have to spend 50 gems on this, you get a coupon. And then you can take those coupons for a chance to roll an ultra rare girl, an ultra rare or a super rare. So that already, it's giving you a good card for free, basically, right?
Yeah.
So like it's a nice and it's a rewarding system, and it's not predatory.
And some events come by, they give you a special coupon to roll for a chance of an ultra rare for free.
Okay. I'm seeing a common thread in this discussion. Well, first of all, there's mostly Love Live, but.
Well, I mean, I'm using Love Live because that's the game that I play most. But this system is implemented for a lot of these Asian mobile games.
Yeah, you're talking about Asian mobile games where you're not directly competing with another person.
Yeah, I think that's why it works.
Yeah, but the main question I feel that the Western people that play video games want to learn about is PvP games. Where do you use
PvP games? I feel like it's
just aesthetic.
I mean,
it's just
League has it right because you can't pay to win League. Yeah. I mean, unless you're really paying for an account, in which case you're paying to win. But even then,
you can pay to buy champions and shit.
That doesn't substitute skill.
That's true.
You can't. Oh, I guess you could buy champs with RP.
Yeah,
you could.
Yeah, but I mean, like even if you do that, you can't necessarily learn them and play better. So you still can't really play to win.
Like
pay to win.
Back when I played League, I didn't spend money, but if I did, I probably would have got RP once just to unlock Vayne and just main Vayne for like my whole entire time, and then I never have to spend money ever again.
The virtue at League is that you if you can play, you have to play to learn the game first, right? So before you can even become invested in this game, you need to figure out how to play it. Otherwise, it's just frustrating.
And every character has their own skill set and like their own play style. So even if you bought all the champions and you don't know how to play them, you're still at a
well, that's the thing.
You're still on an impasse.
Even if you want to go in and buy it right away, that's assuming you know what you want to buy, right? Like you can say, oh, I really want to main Vayne. Let's say you use Vayne as an example because Vayne is so cool and I really like her tumble mechanic. Blah blah blah. blah. It looks so fun.
Vayne's
I think I'd be good at that. Yes, let's not touch on that right now. We already know that.
Your mom.
But let's say that's what you wanted to do. As a noob coming into the game, playing it for the first time, you're not going to know that, right? You need to build skill. You need to play for a bit and try to work your way up to the point where you can decide what play style would fit you best, what lane you want to play in, what role you want to play. And at this point, you probably already amassed enough currency, enough IP
to
to
buy
buy
up a
the champion naturally, right? So it's still like it's not something that allows people to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So it's not directly infringing on the actual thing itself.
No, it doesn't give anyone an edge.
What do you think about the system that is in shit? It was that card game.
There's a lot of card games we can talk about here. We talk about
Hearthstone?
Shadowverse, Hearthstone.
Oh, Hearthstone.
Hearthstone.
You can pay for stronger cards.
Yeah,
Like, it was really toxic after a while because if you wanted to start the game, it was impossible because people would just have decks that were so great. You would never be able to
Hearthstone.
beat them.
Yeah, the thing that I liked about Hearthstone when I first got into it, like it was a while back, but at that point it was never like you could always there was a possibility to win with a non
With non-paid deck. I think that just kind of I think it got to the point where it's no longer possible.
There's
I
a
don't play
power
Hearthstone
creep.
Is that
anymore,
because like
I think people just amass such crazy decks.
It's a power creep.
Yeah.
And then like playing the game as like a beginner is
It's
such a
just
high buy-in.
cancerous. Yeah, it's just annoying. Like,
Yeah,
you can't do it.
apparently
without
that's what's
buying
happened in
cards.
Fortnite now. Like I was talking to one of the managers here at the Leland's Media Center, and he was talking about how if you want to get into Fortnite, it's really difficult now to be a beginner because everyone is like really good at the game.
Yeah, everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone has these items and these
Yeah.
this edge, and because
Yeah.
you're all thrown into the same pit. It's really difficult. It's not even like League.
But
At
the
least
way-
League distinguishes.
A way to
Yeah.
counteract this is kind of like a segregation between those who actually spend real money. So people who spend real money face off against people who spend real money, or equivalent items and stats.
Well, let's see. Would that work?
Or you could
People
just
who
use,
spend money versus people who don't spend money. You'd still have
It would
the high
anger-
spenders and the low spenders. Like, let's say you just spend $1. Let's say like the item you want is
Oh,
on
the-
spend
the-
already, you
the-
spend the $1 to get it. You're still going up against those people.
No,
who spend
there has to be
thousands
some curation between like people who.
on it. No, I think that yeah.
I think his point
it's a-
was simply a segregation between people who don't spend money and people who do
No,
spend
I'm
money.
trying.
Yeah,
to,
but like
troubleshoot,
people who
devil's
spend like
advocate
other
here.
$10 are matched people of equal power, or people who spend that much as well.
I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it. If it was, in my opinion, it would be like a ranking system, but even then you'd have to deal with Smurfs.
Yeah, like it would be very difficult to distinguish, and that's probably why we haven't seen it implemented at all. I don't think there's an example out there that does this, right?
Yeah, well-
Because spending is so subjective too. How do you know what people are spending on? If we want to take convenient example, Maple Story, right?
Unless we-
People who sometimes spend for aesthetic purposes. Some people spend for game. You know, like you could buy items that would actually give you an edge. So
but
there's this distinction.
There's
there.
something like that in MMOs called item level, where we attach an item level to each item, even if they cost the same amount. But just by buying that item,
It
you are on
takes
par
you
with
to a
other
different-
people of different item levels.
Right.
So
That
if
would
we
work.
match them by that, it works out.
Which MMOs?
Like, I know a lot of MMOs. There's like Terra, which uses item level
Terra.
system,
Yeah.
and then there's Final Fantasy 14 that use item level
I use
system.
Final Fantasy 14.
Which
too,
means
but
that,
I've never
like,
played it,
which
so-
means that people who amass gear, right? That don't you can't you could buy stuff, but you don't. People who amass gear, right? That brings them to like item level 70, right? They can have a really strong weapon and shitty armor, but technically, according to item level, they're on
You're
par
on
with
par with the people who have
yeah.
that
So you
level,
can
right?
play with them, right?
So so let's use
And it makes a very
this.
dynamic and very fluid spectrum between
See,
who can play with who.
I feel like you're trying. Are you trying to equate that to a Fortnite question?
Well, let's see how that would work for Fortnite. So let's break.
Okay, the problem with Fortnite is that it's all aesthetic items, right? It's not like you can buy like a certain weapon at a certain level, right, and be on level with everyone else. No, it's you can spend a shitload of money and still be trash at the game,
Yeah.
right? And you can also spend like no money and be absolutely amazing at the game, right?
So what's the problem with Fortnite?
Oh,
The
just
problem with
that people
Fortnite
are
is that
too-
it's very difficult to get in now because everyone is so fucking good at
Well,
the
because
game.
Fortnite,
But
they
that's
don't
a-
distinguish
That's
between
a
like,
central dogma for every
not necessarily every game.
Everything.
For Fortnite, they really just throw you all in together, right? Like there's no just
like the bet. Yeah, well,
there's no whatchamacallit. Like they don't put you with a group of beginners.
I mean, there's like
There's no elos.
yeah, that's what I
yeah,
meant.
which means that like we have to rely on a ranking system, but that we can't do anything about Smurfs, right? But unless we could do it like the Korea way, and then just have you enter your SIN card, and then like you can't make Smurfs.
Here's an interesting idea. Like PUBG, right?
Yeah,
PUBG,
that
since
horrible
you've
mess.
yeah. So, well, think about it like this, right? You've invested money in that game, right? Which means that you're bound to be willing to put playtime into it.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas Fortnite, you come and go.
Yeah.
Right. So
Just like I did.
Okay.
Dad, come back. The cigarettes weren't that long.
Joke's on you. I still went out of parents.
No parents, and everyone's an orphan. Feels bad. Well, anyways, yeah, you're willing to put playtime into the game because you bought the game, right? That's basic economics. You invested in something, you want to get that investment back, right?
Yeah.
So by that definition, that would keep out like normies.
Keep up the normies.
I mean, if the shoe fits, if the glove fits.
Yeah.
That would keep out normies. Is what I'm saying. Like if you're going to buy the game, you eventually get good at it, and it will be a much more select player base, right? Especially if you're talking about like it's much more difficult to smurf on a game where you pay than on a game where it's absolutely free.
Have this loot box / microtransaction conversation. So our consensus is that it can be used in an effective way, but for the most part, it's just taken advantage of.
Yeah. Or actually, is it possible for like a play to win, but like in moderate amounts? Maybe?
That's what I'm wondering. Like because I'm trying to think of like a AAA title that has a pay to win that works. All the examples we came up with for working were like
all the AAA titles are like
These-
shit at making games because they're beholden to the stock like the stock.
No, I know
markets.
they're beholden to their investors.
I don't know. I only play exclusively JRPGs and
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it works in these because I feel like it's just a different.
Isn't Doom a great experience? Like it's literally.
They shove no microtransactions.
Yeah,
It's all game.
Dude, you pay $70, you just get a game.
You get a full game.
Isn't
You get
that
a
what we want?
and
We
you
just
get
want
a
pay one
wholesome.
price, get a
You
whole
get
game.
you get a full and fulfilling multiplayer experience that doesn't require to buy shit, and it's all unlocked via the game.
I don't want to pay. Okay, I don't want to pay for my fucking Battlefield
shave your armpits,
$70. What the fuck?
Amy, keep
Wait,
that in.
More bigger question. You shave your armpits?
No,
I
I trim
shave
them.
my armpits.
Yeah, that's why you look better than everyone else. Gender stereotypes.
I thought it was a boy.
Okay,
Fine,
anyways.
We're a boy.
Okay,
Did
no.
we decide that earlier? I
Side-
was a boy that
Emmy is
looked-
Real
confused,
talk, though.
question mark?
Real talk though, I keep it
I'm in
trim.
transition now.
I keep it trim. Like every now and then,
I mean,
every now and then when it gets too rough, I'll take like one of those like buzzers and I'll put like a cap on top that like says like number 4, and I
Chin's
just
looking rough.
yeah, and I'll just like pass it over a couple times, right? So that it's like at its same length. Because I don't want to stick it on my shirt. You're like sticking it on the shirt. It's like peeking out.
It does get prickly, so if you're gonna start,
Yeah.
you can't stop unless you
don't-
just
Is this
wax.
podcast?
Don't shave, but keep it trim.
Back on
What?
track. Loot boxes, microtransactions. So they can work in specific games. We're thinking mobile games, they're always pretty proven in, and online games, they can work. Usually, I mean, they don't always. King Maple Story. But yeah, Leaks got it down pretty bad.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you're doing it for aesthetics, like and you got a nice design team, like
I think aesthetics is probably the best way to go. Like you as long as your design team is on
So,
it.
I feel like the only
do
way we
pretty
can
well
do.
there.
I feel like the only way
And
we
then no
can
one
do.
gets salty and boycotts you and your game dies.
Yo, I feel
know?
like
it's
the
good.
only way to do pay to win stuff is if we attach like an elo, a rank, and an item level.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So like what we have.
But
in
that'll
Final Fantasy
anger the
14.
fan base because some people just want to be Smurfs.
Well, or you have a reasonable way of attaining these things in game if you put a lot of time in, but not an
Yeah, well,
unrealistic. amount
That's
of
why
time.
item levels work too, because like if you were to
No,
obtain,
I understand. Yeah, I think item levels should be a thing.
Yeah.
But I mean,
which is surprising since it's such a simple concept, but no online
it is.
game.
It really isn't that hard.
Yeah, it really isn't. So as a newcomer, you have low item level, you're matched with other people with low item level.
And it just makes it a better and
And
more
even
enriching game experience. For
And even
everyone,
though
I think.
there are people might Smurf, right? Here's the thing.
It would
as
also
far as I
detract
understand,
people from smurfing because they wouldn't want to have to go back down to that item
Yeah.
level. Like it would be a really great mechanic
And, like,
to keep the game.
to be fair, like you can also have a system where like your game is attached to your PlayStation 4 account. So if you want to Smurf on a different account, you gotta buy the game again.
Yeah, like if we're talking about console gaming that can't be used on a computer, that's a much better way of doing
That's something
that.
I
unless
said
you wanna
earlier, yeah,
continue making accounts.
it's more difficult to smurf on a game where you have to buy it. Like
Yeah.
CS:GO, you'll see a lot less smurfs than.
Yeah,
than
so
League.
you could potentially combine a lot of different elements that people tend to hate, but the right combination could
Yeah.
make a really good game. So you could have a really good microtransaction system that detracts from smurfing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that combined with the right item class system, like all these things, it could actually really improve a game. So while we see them used for bad things, they could be used for good.
So why don't we do it?
I don't know. That's a question for
Because
someone else.
we're not good at making games.
Guys, we
No.
just need to amass a lot of
I have-
money,
I-
buy someone out, and then we can make good games.
Dude, just like I would use my like William skills and my wily body and like.
So
everything.
let's
I'll
quit
just
school and day trade until we
Perfectly
have a lot of
trimmed
money
armpit
and
hair.
then invest in games.
I'll just like use my voluptuous, juicy body to like convince all the investors.
Voluptuous, juicy, trimmed armpits body.
Yeah.
Are you willing to sleep?
You can be like the tag for ugly bastard.
Me?
Yeah. Have you seen the amount of hair on your body?
That's ironic coming from you. All right.
Shut up.
Don't just say that.
Amy this morning said that I was charismatic.
Yeah, but you're
And
fat as
Okay. Back on topic. So
Okay.
what was our next one?
graphics and tech.
Yes. So games being used as a means to benchmark.
Actually, William just wrote an article about this. Especially,
Yeah, you're probably
or
the
actually no, you
authority
wrote
on
the
this.
intro to an article about like the FPS.
Yeah. So later we're gonna have an article up about how Doom redefined the genre of FPS.
Actually, question. Was it redefined? Or has there been a change in games now, or is it just they've done something profoundly
So
different?
they're pushing the envelope.
They're pushing the envelope by going backwards. It's really weird.
Okay. So explain, because I'm not an FPS gamer, so
They're
you're
like
the person
they're like
with it.
they're like moving forward, but like they're moonwalking it.
Mm.
Right. So I feel like this is not the good place to talk about it. But if we're talking graphics, then you'll notice that it was around like the release of Call of Duty that like suddenly graphics were the next hottest thing.
So
And the
let's set
reason-
the scene here. The reason we have a problem with this is because we see a lot of games seemingly marketed towards people who just want to see something pretty.
Yeah,
Or
of
like,
course.
we just want to show off 4K,
No,
so we're gonna
I
make
think-
this game that looks really good but actually sucks to play.
I think the bigger problem is that they use pretty visuals in their fucking like advertising, right?
And then
But
don't deliver.
but then you realize when you play the game, there's no substance here.
Well, you also get like a God of War that did look very pretty in game,
no, like
but also
of course
was
that's
just kind of
the
like,
current precedent is to have a pretty looking game. Right? That's what you have to have, right?
Well, the
But-
reason why graphics suddenly became really big is because suddenly with the onset of Call of Duty 4, which revolutionized the way graphics is seen in the like gaming community, not only did it make it look good at the time, but it made it accessible. It was on the Xbox 360, it was on the PS3, it was on the computer.
okay, fair.
There were games that were nicer than Call of Duty 4, i.e. Crysis, but the problem of Crysis is what we're going to talk about graphics being used as a benchmark. Crysis was created, simple reason, only for the express reason of bench testing the strongest computers, right, and testing their new Crytek engine. It is a simple bench test. It is only out of chance that somehow the game actually ended up pretty good.
Okay, so that's the problem is it being created as a bench test, and we see other games being created for this purpose.
Yeah.
Or at least to appeal
And
to this
yeah,
technology.
and
that
the
we now
reason
have.
why it's detriment, we will look at Crysis 2, which was made as another bench test for the new Crytek engine, but they had to dumb it down after showing everyone all the nice graphics. They dumbed it down for the release so it could be accessible on the PS3,
Right.
but it was only accessible on like 15 FPS. So that
So that's-
overall detracts from the overall experience because now you're just raising people's expectations and then under-delivering. Which actually is another thing, is that a lot of the E3 trailers, they show you pre-rendered, and they don't. Sometimes
oh my God, E3 trailers are always so beautiful.
And
And
they
the game, and you're like, what the
and then
fuck?
sometimes they like tell you right in the fine print, pre-rendered, right?
Yeah, I remember watching the whatchamacallit, I think it was like the gameplay demo they showed at E3 for Dishonored 2.
Yeah.
It looks so good. And then I got the game and I was like, this is sloppy as fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know, I did not enjoy it.
Yeah, and like
Some like Bethesda level shit.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I mean, the game,
The game is
thought
a
the game
fantastic
was
game.
fun, but like just looking at it and just seeing
because it was a
how
cinematic.
things were. Yeah, no, but the gameplay demo that they did
Yeah,
at
bro, I
E3
thought-
was actually a lot nicer than what I thought. Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I think it was nicer.
It was-
like
yeah.
it just didn't feel as good when I was playing it.
It was a good game, and also like it was like it reminded me of Bethesda. I love fucking Bethesda games, but they're ugly as shit.
Yeah,
Jesus
I
Christ.
feel like that's the.
But I
common
feel like
thread
that's a
with
good
Bethesda.
thing in a way where they try to like take resources from like the constant rush to be the nicest looking thing and put it into
A good
into a
game
good
that's
game.
fun to
right?
play, which is what we want, versus something
True.
that's just nice to look at.
Totally true.
So that's my
it
problem.
makes me
with this
sad.
whole
Yeah,
thing.
and thinking about that now, it makes me sad that like Fallout 4 and all these other ones are moving towards like more
Better.
like a generification of like
Yeah.
of the model. They're really just dumbing down the whole system. It feels bad, man.
And like back on the topic of like
fucking pay for mods. You have to pay for fucking mods. in
no,
Fallout
that's
4.
stupid.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for another time.
We
Okay.
should have brought that up in the
Back on topic.
whole
Fuck.
microtransaction conversation.
Okay. So
I'm angry.
okay.
I think we're all angry to a degree. me. But anyways, whose anger is more important?
So we need to talk about back on topic about how graphics affects the gaming industry. Because here's the thing, it just so happens, right, that people who buy graphics card are gamers, right? And because gamers buy it, it's only reasonable to use games as the benchmark. So developers are using these games as tools to test new, like, stronger and stronger things and forego gameplay. And gamers will buy it up because they want the nicest looking rig and nicest looking game. And then they will just use the graphics to supplement the fact that the game is bad.
Use the graphics to justify the game, which is used to
and
justify the graphics, which is then this whole cycle.
You can argue that this is, it feeds the market and the gamer is happy. And it's their money, not yours. You can argue all that you want. But here's the thing, it dilutes the industry, because then all you have is these people, all the funding goes into making pretty games with no substance, because somehow that's like the only thing that makes money now, because it's just catering to the highest common denominator, which is people being loaded, right? Just buying gaming PCs.
Loaded. I think that's something that people have come to value, or at least a certain subset of the market has come to value these graphics over most other things.
Yeah.
And it is annoying because we don't see games attempting to push the envelope on gameplay anymore, or really attempting to bring storyline into the game in a more interesting way versus just like some, very shoehorned and guided gameplay.
That actually that makes a good question. Okay, so you say that these companies are using these games as like a test, right?
Mm-hmm.
So testing better graphic models, but they're foregoing gameplay in order to like test the graphics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's a test, that must lead to something, right? So they're testing for something.
I don't know about testing. Maybe it's
they're not testing.
It's not. So I think it.
It's kind of like a dick measuring contest.
It was testing when it started, and they realized, wait, this actually works. People are really attracted to this, and now because we have the technology to make it look so good, people are focusing on having these good graphics above everything else. And that's not to say that you can't have a game that looks beautiful and is also really fun to play, but when you're focusing on making one thing, or at least pushing one thing, how much money are you really dedicating to the rest of it? So I think that's the problem. It's become an opportunity cost of making a pretty game.
And then another thing that negatively affects the market is because the constant push for beautiful graphics makes it so console gamers feel left behind, and then people have to upgrade the console games to be on top, consoles to be on par with the PCs, which raises the entry price for like people who want to play on console instead, right?
Too.
So, and not only that, it's like now it's cost more to start the game. The game will cost more because it's more development time, right? PCs get more expensive, so every iteration on console gets more and more expensive, unless console uses.
And some of these games, like, you have to play them with such certain specs. Like, you can't play them on anything lower, and then it just kills the gameplay because it's laggy and it's shitty and it looks terrible. Like,
it sounds like we're moving towards like a split in the community. Where there's like, I'm guessing the indie community, which is going to make a lot more.
It's not only indie, but it's not only us, but some developers have noticed that this trend, and they try to value art style over graphics,
right? Where
the game functions as like a product of its gameplay and its aesthetic.
You have any good AAA examples?
Well, I wouldn't say AAA, but there is Dragon Quest, which is like produced by Square Enix, so that's as AAA as a JRPG gets, aside from Final Fantasy,
it's true.
right?
Dragon Quest is also the biggest one. Like, if you were to look at its traction in Japan, not so much here, but it is the biggest JRPG.
Yeah, it uses like Akira Toriyama's stylized way of art.
It's very cutesy. For those of you who don't know, it's very cutesy and very cartoony.
So it has its charm, but the characters also have a decently high polygon count, where like they aren't blocky, but they aren't realistic. They don't try to be realistic.
Rendered really nicely.
And they put a lot of focus on shaders instead. They put a lot of the graphical powers into shaders instead. So at the very least, it's artistic and it looks pleasant to the eye, and not like just pastel. Like, it has depth. And then they put the rest into story and gameplay.
Yeah, the stories are typically. I mean, they put a lot of effort in there because any turn-based game needs to have that going for it because it doesn't have the game.
Which is ironic that it's made by Square Enix, because Square Enix do make the Final Fantasy series, which are always constantly pushing the envelope for the nicest graphics, and then they dilute it with shit gameplay. The only time the Final Fantasy were good were before 13 when graphics were shit
Oh, 13
and gameplay was
just
good.
a detriment to Final Fantasy.
Listen, okay,
Final Fantasy has gone
Fun
down
fact-
the shitter since
fun
13.
fact, Final Fantasy 15 was shit.
Oh my
But
God.
I loved it. I had a lot of fun. But then again,
No, I played through 15, and the whole time I was sitting there playing through this, I was just like, why am I here?
And
This is
blatant
better. I could be playing through
Yeah.
Yakuza right now.
Also,
like, what am I doing?
on top of that, blatant propaganda. If you want the path to good video games, usually JRPGs is it. They sacrifice graphics like it's nobody's business, and they funnel it all into gameplay mechanics.
I mean, you have kind of biased opinions here because we both love them, but JRPGs are actually the
They're
best
very-
fucking time. They're so great.
Yeah, they're the best.
I know a lot of people.
If you can ignore the blatant sexism,
it's you'd be surprised how many people think they're difficult.
they're not. They're really accessible. They're really easy.
Really easy. Like there's no entry. Like you don't need any skills to.
But, like,
to play these.
But then it required ones to be like kind of savvy in the way that Asian cultures and video games work because they're really heavy on.
It's true,
grinding
but I
and
feel
loot.
like once you play one, you know, or at least once you start, you know how to play the rest. I know some people probably find all these mechanics really tedious, but
Right.
That's
they're
because
they're rewarding though. They're
Yeah.
rewarding in ways that other games are not, especially when you're able to drill something out or reach a new achievement.
so there are games that developers that realize that art style matters more, and there are games that strike a good balance between graphics and like style. And I always say Doom, but I'm gonna say it this one last time ish. But like the Doom 2016 looked graphically impressive.
It was pretty
Right.
good.
But the thing about it is that its particular art style didn't demand like minutia details to be like defined, right? Like at most they have like a metal shine. They shine metals, and then you know it's defined enough that you see the striations and the tech, so you know definitely that it's like techie over engineered. So it looks good, but it's not like you walk up to the first demon you see and you can see every like ripple in the skin. It's like no.
I feel like my problem with the whole thing is like, how realistic do I really want this to look?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, like I'm using this to escape, especially when you're playing a stealth game or something like. What's a good example here? Like
I mean,
Uncharted or a Last of Us. Like
In the case
I
of
don't
Doom,
know,
like, you're
man.
looking. It's less about escaping and more about just being
like in the case of
badass
Doom.
and
Yeah.
running
it's
around.
different.
the
But a
fact
lot
that-
of these other games that have like these really great graphics and it's
And, like-
supposed to look so real. Like how the fuck real? Do
and
I
great
really want it to
graphics for a game like Doom wouldn't work because it's cartoonishly violent. To have realistic graphics is kind of
Yeah.
like what the
look? Well, that's
right?
like what you would say for any Nintendo game. It's like, why would you?
no, it's like
What the
imagine
hell? Where did Nintendo come
like
from?
I mean,
let's
Nintendo was ever
let's
present.
say
We
Mario.
just talked about
Let's say Mario is a cartoonishly simple and fun game, right?
That would be
Nintendo's
fucked up.
But if it
Like
was like
that.
100% high poly, like Call of Duty, like next gen type of graphics, like you see every pore on Mario's skin, you know how fucking scary that is?
Yeah, that'd be fucked up, dude.
I mean, it's a decent argument that these things can work without needing ridiculously great graphics. Like, look at the success of some of the Nintendo franchises.
Yeah.
They've never needed it, and they still work.
Yeah.
Fine, and we can say, yes, they run on nostalgia, whatever, but, it's
I think overall Nintendo's marketing strategy is like
it's very different.
it's very different.
inclusive, and it's not
it's
reliant
fucking
on
strange.
these-
It's,
Yeah,
it's-
I mean-
okay. The Nintendo Labo.
Okay,
The
well,
Nintendo-
Labo is just
The
like...
Nintendo Lab.
Yo,
The
I
Nintendo
don't,
Labo.
should we
The fucking Nintendo Labo. Let me talk, okay?
should we consider it a microtransaction because you're buying for
you
cardboard?
might as well, but go on.
The Nintendo fucking Labo. That feeling when you buy $60 online and then you mistake the actual box for the thing that you're buying. All right, you're buying fucking cardboard. You're buying fucking cardboard.
Wait, is the box what you're buying?
No,
Oh.
but you're gonna fucking mistake because it's the same material.
No, no, they sell you cardboard in a metal crate.
And all the money went to the fucking crate.
Yeah.
It wasn't even nothing remotely related to the fucking cardboard. It blows my fucking mind. Like a person like traced all the schematics and then like uploaded to Google so you can just get it for free.
I was wondering about this, and I'm like, this can't even work on kids. Like, I really just thought it was
It'll
the
just break
stupidest thing.
tomorrow.
But I have 3 younger cousins, and they all fucking loved it. Like, they were looking forward to it for the whole release. They did all this.
Honestly, I would just
I
say
just couldn't understand. Like,
the
how
Labo-
are
the
you
Labo-
tricking people?
the
So
Labo is Nintendo just being Nintendo.
Yeah,
You know,
they're
they,
just
they,
strange.
they do weird shit. Like,
it's so weird.
For example, like who would have thought like of the fucking Wii? Like what the fuck is that?
That's what I always think.
Well,
Or, like,
that's
the
because
visual-
motion
like,
controls were hot at the time.
No,
No,
they were the ones who made it. hot,
They
dude.
made the motion controls hot. They did all that.
Yeah, everyone else was behind them, and they were never as good. Like PS3
Also,
motion
if you
controller,
even think about like that home menu that they have,
yeah,
like iPhones weren't a thing yet when they did that.
It was intuitive
so
as
that
hell.
was them. Like
Dude,
the whole thing on
Nintendo's
the
like-
Wii. They're the innovator for all these things.
That's because they throw shit at like a dartboard and see what sticks.
they really
Yeah,
do. Like
like
with
a fu-
handheld
like-
consoles with everything. It's
Like the
hilarious.
fucking was it the Nintendo, not the Nintendo Switch, the one before that.
Wii U was a
The Wii-
complete.
the
I
fucking-
own one.
The Wii U
Dude,
is the one thing we don't need
The,
to think
the
about.
Wii U was the concept was, okay, guys, what if we created a DS out of the fucking thing in the screen, and
Let's
your
What
do
PlayStation
it.
TV.
is what the
It'll work.
Switch should have like? Is what is what they wanted the Switch to be? Is what they wanted to be the
It's
Switch?
The Switch is the refined product
Yeah,
of
but
what the Wii U tried
the funny
to do.
thing is that the screen you can't go more than like 10 feet away, otherwise it loses connection. So like, why the?
It's bad, dude. Yeah.
It does. It's terrible, and also it's just ugly. Can we talk about that for a aesthetically? Not pleasing at all.
Dude,
Sorry,
it
I
looks
don't,
like
I
a
don't
bike.
ever want to hold that. and play it.
I don't necessarily mind the aesthetics of it.
I didn't like it.
I
at all.
personally feel like if you take
The
the
Switch is
overall
so much
design
better.
philosophy of the Wii U and compressed it into like a rod, it'd be more mistakable as like a sex toy.
What?
Dude, it's just I just have this like
Actually,
Dude, if
Nintendo
you
has
could-
this
if you
whole
could-
thing about hiding really blatant sex jokes in its game. Have you looked this up at all?
Bro,
There was this game called Peach. I don't remember what it was called, but like the whole game was basically a euphemism for like female sex toys.
I like it.
William,
Can we have one for Bowsette?
There was a vibe scepter in the game.
Huh?
The whole thing about this game was that like
A vibe scepter?
Peach had a vibe scepter, which would give her different moods and emotions, unlocking
Oh,
different
this game.
powers,
Holy
so that she
shit.
could go save Mario. And it was and I think there was like a message in it that like every woman has one around her house or something like that. So, okay, sorry.
William, if we're
really
gonna be
random.
totally honest, like that was a fucking moot point, because if you take anything and like compress it into a cylinder,
You can make it into
you can
a
make it
sex
into a fucking dildo. All right.
Okay, fine, you got me there. Hey.
What fucking retarded shit was that?
Okay,
If you
okay.
took the fucking Wii U and compress it into a cylinder, you can
Shut the
make it
fuck up,
into
I'm retarded, okay? Also, so, back on topic. So the reason why this is all happening, sum it all up, investors.
fucking investors.
Okay, hear me
I
out, hear
think
me out.
what you mean is shareholders.
Shareholders.
Because lots of people can invest without necessarily having any sway in the decision making of a company or corporation.
Yeah.
See, okay, investors
Shareholders.
are great, right? Shareholders are great, except when it's a company or a thing that's creative. All
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly
Well,
the problem here,
not
though.
the thing is great. Like they basically see the reports and say, "Oh, this is what seems to be working. Why don't we push this?" So I get it. Like yes, that's what's.
Shareholders
Yeah,
are
see,
trying
the
to
problem
make.
is, let's say you
It's
have,
like this negative reinforcement.
let's say you have a
Stuff.
fucking mining company and they come out with a technology that's like, oh, this is more efficient. Okay, we'll put that in. There's no thought required into that. There's
And
no,
that's
there's
why
no
we
creative,
have
like,
how
vision.
many NFL and NHL games that are the same every year.
And like, look at EA, which is prime example. EA itself, they churned out good games in the past when they were smaller, right?
Like what?
Like, dude, they made some real stuff. I'm just telling you. Okay, shut up.
No examples.
Okay, shut
no
up.
examples.
But nowadays they're owned by shareholders. Shareholders dictate and see the market like, oh, this is making a lot of money.
Well,
We're gonna push this.
Things have always been owned by shareholders, but it's the decision making, right? So now that the gaming industry is such a big money maker, money generator, like it's all mainstream now.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
the
you can-
shareholders like push it on developers to include microtransactions, to include all this other
Well, that's what it
shenanigans.
is. Basically,
because
the
it makes
shareholders look
money.
at a report. What are the things that have worked for us? These are the things that have worked for us. These particular titles, skinning these games with minimum effort,
Yeah.
putting in these microtransactions. They say, you know what, this is a go. This is how we make the
'Cause
money.
they're-
That's what they do.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, they're not paying enough attention to what we really want. So
Commercializing
the
the whole-
only way to really reverse this is
Which
if
is-
we all stop and boycott. But
Yeah, which is ironic
how
because
many of us are going to
because like they're focused on making the most money, but if we stop buying their stuff, they make no money.
But no
and-
one stops
But
buying
they
it,
never
that's the
really
thing.
think that far ahead because
No, they do think
because
that.
they're all like commerce students and like science students are
They
better.
do think that, but the thing is, no one's actions reinforce that. That's the change we want.
Yeah.
We still all. I mean, I don't think the three of us are buying
Okay.
any of these games.
No,
but
and EA does like companies like EA don't have a choice because shareholders give them money.
Right.
And
Okay,
investors and like
but
stuff.
William addressed this earlier. It's getting to a point with the technology and shit that it's pushing the price ever up, right?
Yeah.
Before, like 2 years ago, $60 for a AAA
Oh,
game.
I know, and now that how much?
But I
is
think
that?
that's
I
just-
got
a
I
year
got
ago,
a Dragon
think-
Quest the other day, and it was like $120.
Dude,
I'm like,
I think this is a product of just Canada being Canada.
It's not Canada. I mean, our exchange is bad. You can say that, but like, it's not that. It's true that the cost of making these games is pushing the price.
But games
up,
in
right?
USA are still $59.99.
Graphics is another thing that's
Can I get to my point?
Yes, go ahead.
As the price pushes up, right? that makes it more difficult to buy the game, right? $60, that's fucking reasonable. $70, that's fucking reasonable. $80, yeah, depends on the game, right? Now, when you get to, like, let's say $120, it better be a quality game. And if it's not, you're gonna lose everything.
So I guess it works out as like a very expensive method of gatekeeping bad games and bad companies.
No, but the problem is, like, no, the thing is, this might herald in the collapse of the game industry.
Yeah.
Right? Because as it gets pushed up, they're just going to see profits, right? And if
it'll stagnate, and then everyone will just sell their shares, and then.
Well, it's not the price of these games that's affecting that change, right? It's the cost of making these games that's pushing it up, and also inflation. There's different things that factor into this. Like, if our purchasing power, we all have more of that nowadays. So the price of these games is gonna go up. It's gonna rise, but that's not. I don't think that's the real problem with this. The problem is that what they see that's working is what they're gonna continue producing. So like these games these sports games that we get new ones of every fucking year that no one really wants. Instead of funneling money into new and exciting games, they just make new fucking sports games. And we don't want to play those. Put more microtransactions in to unfinished products, and let's just sell those. That seems to work, and it did for a decent amount of time for them. You know, like those are the trends that they're seeing and then doing business on that we don't really want them to do.
Okay. So
that's
what have we learned? Nintendo's
everyone
insane.
be like Nintendo.
Yeah.
No, don't be like Nintendo.
Why not? I love Nintendo.
No,
Don't
let
be like
Nintendo do their thing and then follow in their footsteps by taking their mistakes and making it good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Don't
So
be Nintendo because Nintendo's fucking insane. They're fucking schizophrenic. They don't know what they're doing.
don't say that. Some people get offended by that.
Dude, they're insane.
Everything is planned. They know what they're doing.
It's all according to Keikaku.
There's some of the games they don't even know what they're doing. They rush it out, like Ocarina of Time, or not Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. They rush that shit out like crazy.
Yeah, and somehow it's a really good game.
The guy was fucking depressed. Everything was going wrong.
But I feel like that's just the Japanese work culture.
That's true.
That's different. So that's the other thing. A lot of
we're
comparing
okay.
a Japanese
But
company to all these American ones, so
hold your thought. Like, we're running short on time. We got to wrap this up, right? So what have we learned? Nintendo's crazy. What was it? Graphics are pushing the boundaries and making stuff expensive, and there's just the rush for graphics is detrimental. Microtransactions can be done well, so it's wrong to hate on loot boxes and microtransactions, but because there are examples, but not everyone does microtransactions right.
And not all genres of games should do microtransactions the same way.
Accommodate microtransactions.
And finally, the way we combat this is promote communism in the video game industry, so no longer will shareholders have a say.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all had a good time. I think
I wouldn't call this experience enriching, but hopefully you had some laughs.
We're about finished. Like, for all of you guys, I hope you're just like listening to this in the background. Please don't be actually watching the video. There's nothing of value to obtain here. Anyways, we've been the Vault Podcast. If you're interested in the Vault publication or any of the shit that we do, you can go onto our YouTube channel. This is probably on our YouTube channel for me. But you can contact us in other ways. For example, our Discord. We have an Instagram. We have a Facebook. We have a Twitter ?
Yeah, we will. If there's any content that you would like to see, please let us know, because we are here to cater to you.
And if you want to submit something that you have an opinion for,
yes, if you want to be part of us, we welcome newcomers.
Just go to the Vault Publication, the Vault Publication website at www.thevaultpublication.com. No spaces. Anyways, we hope you guys all have a God blessed day. Have a nice one.
Against the white wall, TV antennas in the back. You